Frontier Podcast.
Okay, so get ready, because we're going deep on geoengineering this time.
Oh, this one is interesting.
Yeah, you sent us a bunch of stuff on this.
A lot of material.
Yeah, like documentaries and
Right, and documents.
and some other stuff too. Let's just say some interesting YouTube channels.
Yeah, just out there a little bit.
So basically, you want to know, like, can humans actually control the planet's temperature?
Well, and what's really fascinating about this isn't just theoretical anymore. I mean, it's possible. We've already accidentally geoengineered the planet
Wow.
with some pretty big consequences.
Were you talking about that famine in Africa in the 80s?
Yeah.
In the 1980s?
I remember that from school. I think like 1 million people died.
Right, a horrific famine.
Yeah, from drought, right?
Yeah.
And that was because of like natural climate stuff, right?
Well, that's what they thought at the time.
Okay.
But some recent research suggests it might be a very different story.
Okay.
So if you think back to that time, the U.S. and Europe, tons of heavy industry of burning coal, just pumping out pollution. Right.
And what we didn't realize then was all that soot and smog, we call them aerosols, they were acting like tiny mirrors in the atmosphere.
Oh, so they were reflecting the sunlight away.
Exactly.
And that makes it cooler.
Yeah, and
So all the bad pollution was actually good.
Well, it's not that simple.
Okay.
Aerosols don't just reflect sunlight. They also interact with clouds,
Okay.
and they make them brighter and, how do I describe this? Fluffier.
Fluffier clouds.
And that increases their reflectivity even more.
Oh.
So it's like if you put a mirror under a lampshade,
Okay.
it makes the light even stronger.
Okay.
So, and here's where it gets unsettling.
Okay.
There's more and more evidence that these aerosols, especially from North America and Europe, they may have kind of stayed over the North Atlantic, changing the temperatures there.
Huh.
And that temperature difference might have shifted a really important rain band,
Okay.
pushing it south.
And that rain band was supposed to go where?
It usually brought rain to Africa.
Oh, wow. So our pollution stopped the rain.
Well, it's not 100% certain, but it's a scary thought, right?
Yeah.
That even trying to cool the planet, even accidentally, could have led to this awful famine.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the other stuff being researched today, like that cloud seeding thing.
Yeah. Cloud seeding.
Where they make it rain
Yeah, they're trying to.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they actually already use it in some parts of the world.
Really?
It's pretty simple compared to some other ideas.
Okay.
Basically, they just inject particles like silver iodide into the clouds to make raindrops form.
So it's kind of like giving the clouds a little
nudge.
a little squeeze to make it rain?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one way.
Yeah.
But then there's that other one I've heard about where they want to dim the sun.
Yeah.
That sounds like a movie or something.
It sounds like science fiction.
Right.
But it's actually based on something that happens naturally, volcanic eruptions.
Oh, right, like when Mount Pinatubo erupted. That was huge.
That was a big one.
in the Philippines.
Right, in 1991. And that sent millions of tons of sulfur dioxide up into the stratosphere.
The stratosphere that's way up high, right?
Right above where we live.
Okay.
And those particles acted like tiny mirrors bouncing sunlight away from Earth.
And that made the planet cooler.
Yeah, for a couple of years, the global temperature actually dropped.
Wow.
Yeah. So stratospheric aerosol injection, it's trying to do that, but on a smaller scale.
So instead of just hoping for a giant volcano, we make our own little ones?
That's the basic idea. Yeah, but they'd have to calculate what aerosols to use and where to put them in the stratosphere
To get it right.
to get the cooling effect they want. But anytime you mess with a system that big, that complex,
Yeah.
there are risks.
Like what? Well, we don't even know what they all are yet.
Okay, but worst case scenario, what could happen?
Okay, let's say it works.
Okay.
Right, we stabilize global temperatures. We're good.
Right. Problem solved.
But what if it makes us lazy?
What if governments and industries say, well, we don't have to change, we fixed it. We could become totally reliant on this technology.
Oh.
And then the real problem, climate change, it just gets worse.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches.
Exactly. And we haven't even talked about the side effects.
Right, like the famine, maybe?
Yeah. Who knows what messing with the stratosphere could do? We don't fully understand it.
It's a complicated system.
Incredibly complicated.
It'd be like playing Jenga with the entire planet.
Yeah, you pull out the wrong block.
Everything collapses.
And the stakes couldn't be higher.
Yeah, that's the Earth we're talking about. And that brings up another issue. Who decides what the temperature should be?
That's a great question.
Right, dimming the sun for one country might mess things up for another one.
Exactly.
It's not like one country can just decide to do it.
No, it would have to be a global decision.
So we need everyone to agree.
Some kind of global agreement, yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
It's a big challenge.
It's impossible.
Especially these days.
Yeah, and it's not just countries, right? What about companies?
Oh, absolutely. Corporations are developing these technologies.
And they want to make money.
Of course, there's a huge financial incentive there.
So now it's even more complicated.
It adds another layer to the problem.
Speaking of complicated, what about that HARP thing?
HARP?
Isn't that like the biggest geoengineering conspiracy theory?
It's a popular one.
Yeah, every time there's like a weird storm or something, people blame HARP.
Right. Earthquakes, hurricanes, you name it.
But what is it really? Is it like some super weapon that can control the weather?
HARP might sound like something out of James Bond.
Right.
But it's really not that exciting.
Okay.
It's basically a really powerful radio transmitter
Okay.
in Alaska.
And it does what?
It sends radio waves up into the ionosphere.
Hold on, what's the ionosphere again?
It's way up high. It's the upper layer of the atmosphere.
Okay.
And it's really important for radio communication.
Okay.
It's like a giant mirror that reflects radio waves back down to Earth.
Oh, okay, so we can listen to the radio.
Right, exactly. So HARP was built to study how the ionosphere works and how it affects stuff like radio and navigation.
So it can't control the weather.
Here's the thing about weather control. You need a crazy amount of energy to change the weather.
Like a lot of energy.
A massive amount of energy, way more than HARP can produce.
Okay.
It would be like trying to boil the ocean with a tea kettle.
Okay, so that's not happening.
No, HARP's not a weather machine.
But people want to believe it.
Well, we like the idea of controlling things.
Especially something like the weather.
Especially with climate change and all the uncertainty that brings.
Right.
People want to feel like they have some control. It's funny you should say that about control.
What do you mean?
Well, because even though HARP isn't doing it, this idea of like using tech to control the climate.
Oh, you mean geoengineering?
Yeah.
To stop global warming.
That's gaining some serious traction.
Yeah, but that brings up a whole other can of worms. Like,
A lot of issues.
yeah, like who gets to choose what the temperature should be?
Right, exactly. Because even if these technologies worked, that is a huge ethical question.
Huge.
And a geopolitical one.
Right, it's not like there's a global thermostat.
Right. With everyone's ideal setting.
Everyone's going to want something different.
Right. What feels comfy to someone in, like, Canada
Right.
could be a death sentence for someone on a tiny island.
Because of the sea level rising?
Exactly.
Oh, man, it'd be chaos.
Imagine the tension.
Countries fighting over the thermostat.
If one country was like, we're doing this,
Right.
and the others are like, no way, you can't do that to us.
That's going to mess us up.
It'd be a whole new kind of arms race.
Not with bombs, but with the climate.
Yeah, exactly. Controlling the entire environment.
Which is insane.
And then there's always the law of unintended consequences.
Oh, right, like that famine.
Yeah. Who knows what dimming the sun would do?
Yeah, but like we were saying, we're still figuring out how all this stuff works.
It's like trying to do open heart surgery. But you've only ever dissected a frog.
Okay, I get it.
Like, we don't know enough to be messing with this.
Right, and even if we did,
Yeah.
is it even our right to do that?
That's the bigger question, right?
To decide for everyone,
Do we have the right
for the whole planet, for future generations?
make that call for everyone?
I don't know, it feels kind of arrogant.
Like, we've got this, we can control the planet now.
Like we know better
Exactly.
than nature.
Right. And
Yeah.
that arrogance can be dangerous.
How?
Well, think about it. What if we get complacent?
Oh, you mean like we don't have to try anymore?
Yeah, if we think geoengineering is the solution.
We could just keep burning fossil fuels.
Right, it lets us off the hook.
It's like that saying, if you give a mouse a cookie,
It's the moral hazard.
right, if you have a safety net,
Yeah.
you're more likely to take risks.
Exactly. And this is a huge risk.
This is the whole planet we're talking about.
So a lot of experts say, yeah, we need to do the research.
On geoengineering.
Yeah, but it can't be a distraction.
From the real work.
We still need to cut emissions.
And switch to renewable energy.
Right, solar, wind, all of that.
And just live more sustainably.
It all has to happen together.
So it's not a magic bullet.
No silver bullet here.
Or like a last resort.
Exactly. If we've tried everything else.
But then who decides when it's time for the last resort?
Right, that's the other problem.
It can't be one country.
This got to be a group effort.
Global cooperation.
Transparency, everyone has to be on board.
Which is hard.
Yeah, with the way things are now.
Yeah. Speaking of things being the way they are,
What are you thinking?
conspiracy theories.
Oh, boy.
Because there's a whole other side to this geoengineering thing
Right.
where people think it's already happening.
Like secretly?
Yeah, like chemtrails. Have you heard about those?
Oh, yeah, the chemtrail conspiracy.
That they're spraying stuff on us?
From airplanes.
Yeah, is that true? Should we be worried?
Should we get our tinfoil hats?
I don't know. It sounds kind of crazy.
You know those trails you see?
On the planes?
They're called contrails.
Contrails.
It's short for condensation trails.
Oh, okay.
And it's just water vapor.
Water vapor.
Yeah, from the engines.
Oh, it's low.
Mixing with the cold air up high.
And it makes those white streaks?
Exactly. It freezes into tiny ice crystals.
Huh. So that's all it is.
Just physics. No secret government plot.
Okay. Good to know.
Contrails have been around as long as jet engines.
Oh.
But it's interesting, right?
That people believe it.
Yeah, that is something more sinister.
It shows you how much distrust there is.
Distrust in authorities' institutions.
Yeah, people are looking for answers.
And sometimes the simplest answer.
It's the right one.
But speaking of real geoengineering...
Oh, yeah. Wasn't there a project at Harvard?
You're thinking of SCOPEX.
That one.
The Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment.
Yeah, they wanted to release particles into the
A
atmosphere
small-scale experiment.
to see what happens.
Yeah, but it caused a big stir.
Why everyone's always arguing about science?
Well, it's not the science itself in this case.
What is it?
It's the ethics of it all.
What do you mean?
Well, some people say that even doing these small experiments...
Like SCOPEX.
Yeah, it makes it seem more okay.
Oh, like it normalizes it,
Exactly, like geoengineering is just another tool.
when it should be a last resort.
Exactly, and that makes it easier for governments
Or companies.
to justify bigger, riskier projects.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like it's a slippery slope.
Where do you draw the line?
Right. At what point are we going too far?
Yeah, tampering with nature.
It's a really tough question.
And the stakes are high.
Yeah, the whole planet is at stake.
And it's not just about the science, it's about who decides.
Exactly. These decisions affect everyone.
The whole world.
But the power isn't shared equally.
It comes back to that.
Yeah, who gets to decide?
Because one country dimming the sun could have huge consequences.
For everyone.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It highlights the need for international cooperation.
For sure.
More than ever.
You know, it's funny, we talk about all this crazy tech like dimming the sun, but we forget about the simple stuff.
Like what?
Like trees.
Oh, yeah. Trees.
They're like nature's own geoengineering.
They are pretty amazing.
Yeah, they just suck the carbon out of the air.
Carbon capture machines.
And it makes the planet look nice.
Exactly. Win-win.
It's crazy how much one tree can do.
It's really, they're like these little powerhouses.
Yeah, and they're not just taking in carbon. They're doing all this other stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, like helping with ecosystems.
Right, providing homes for animals.
Preventing soil erosion.
They even affect the rain.
It's incredible.
See, nature knows what's up.
Way ahead of us.
We just got to help it out a little.
Give it a boost.
And the best part is anyone can do this.
Exactly. You don't need fancy labs or billions of dollars.
Just plant a tree.
It's empowering, right?
Yeah, it shows that we can make a difference.
We're not just along for the ride.
Right, we can all do something.
Every little bit helps.
Imagine if everyone listening planted just one tree.
That's a lot of trees.
It all adds up.
It does. But we can't ignore the bigger picture either.
Right, planting trees isn't enough.
It's a great start, but we need bigger changes.
Like what?
We gotta kick our fossil fuel habit.
Yeah, no more coal and oil.
Switch to renewables, solar, wind.
All that good stuff.
And we gotta rethink how we live.
What do you mean?
Like all the stuff we buy.
Oh, you mean like being a conscious consumer?
Exactly. Do we really need all this stuff?
The latest gadgets, the clothes.
The giant cars?
Yeah. Do we need it?
It's about making choices.
Choices that are good for the planet.
For the future.
Exactly. And it's not just on us.
Right. We need our leaders to step up, too.
Make laws about climate change.
Invest in clean energy.
Protect nature.
Yeah. Hold them accountable.
Well said. Okay, so we covered a lot today.
We really did, from accidental geoengineering to dimming the sun.
It's a lot to process.
It really makes you think about our relationship with the planet.
Yeah, like we want to control it.
But we're also at its mercy.
And sometimes the best solutions are the simplest.
Like planting a tree.
Exactly. Or just thinking twice before you buy something.
It all makes a difference.
So to everyone listening, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We'll keep digging into these topics.
Exploring all the angles.
Keep those questions coming.
and stay curious.
Until next time.
Artificial Frontier Podcast.